betrayed. Broken, reborn. This is Novel Binge.
The day I came home, my daughter called my enemy. Daddy went to prison for 3 years to protect my wife and daughter. On the day I was released, they celebrated with the man who framed me. When the prison gates opened, Cloud City was covered in drizzle. The rain was not heavy. It fell in thin, dense threads, striking the concrete and raising a pale gray mist from the ground. A guard handed me an old duffel bag. "Lu Chen, you're out now. Behave yourself." I took the bag and nodded. It was light, a few old clothes, a cracked phone, a wallet with worn corners. That was everything I had left after 3 years in prison. Several cars were parked outside the gate. One man had just been released. His family rushed forward and wrapped him in their arms. His wife cried so hard, she could barely stand, and he patted her back while muttering, "Why are you crying? I'm home now." Another man's friend handed him a cigarette and laughed. "Come on, let's welcome you back." I stood at the bottom of the steps and waited for 10 minutes. No one came. I lowered my head and looked at my phone. It was the old phone I had just gotten back. It took a long time to turn on. The cracked screen flickered. Then, a few system notifications, delayed by 3 years, finally popped up. I called Shen Juri. The first call went unanswered. The second one did too. The third call was about to disconnect automatically when someone finally picked up. The background was noisy. Applause, glasses clinking, children laughing. I tightened my grip on the phone. My throat felt dry. Juri, I'm out. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then Shen Juri's voice came through, very low. "Lu Chen." "Yeah, I know." She quickly regained her composure. "Something urgent came up at the company today, so I arranged for the driver to pick you up." I looked at the empty roadside. The driver never came. She paused. "There might be traffic. Find somewhere to stay out of the rain first. I'll be done soon. Then, I'll head home." Before I could speak, a clear little girl's voice suddenly came from her side. "Mom, Godfather, he wants you to cut the cake." My fingers froze. Shen Jie said nothing. For a moment, the silence was so brief it felt as if even the rain had stopped. Then she said, "Lu Chen, I'll explain later." The call ended. I stared at the dark screen. 3 years. In prison. I had counted the days too many times. During the first year, I thought Shen Jie must be having a hard time. During the second year, I thought Xinghe must have grown taller. During the third year, I thought that once I got out, everything would be fine. I would see them, eat a warm meal, hear my daughter call me dad again. But I never expected that. On my first day out of prison, the first thing I would hear was my daughter calling another man Godfather. The driver still did not arrive. I hailed a cab back to the city. The taxi driver was talkative. When we reached the area, near Yunkan Central Hotel, the road ahead was badly congested. He craned his neck and chuckled. "Looks like Shen Group booked the whole place tonight. I heard their IPO pre-review went through. Not many companies in Cloud City can make this big of a scene." I followed his gaze. The giant screen on the hotel's outer wall was lit. Red background, gold lettering, bright enough to sting. "Congratulations to Shen Group on passing its pre-listing review. Special thanks to Vice President He Yunjo for standing with us through 3 years of storms." Below the words was a photo of 3 people. Shen Juri stood in the middle, wearing a black gown. Her hair was swept up, and her cold, beautiful features looked even more distant beneath the lights. My daughter, Shen Xinghe, wore a white dress and held a bouquet. She smiled so widely that her 2 little fangs showed. The man standing beside them wore a tailored suit. A black lapel pin gleamed on his chest. He Yunjo, 3 years ago, on that rainy night before I was sent to prison, he had worn that same pin. The driver kept talking. "Ms. Shen is really something. I heard her husband went to prison, and she kept Shen Group alive all by herself. It couldn't have been easy." I handed him the fare. "Keep the change." He was still startled when I pushed open the door and stepped out. Rain hit my face with a chill. A red carpet stretched across the hotel entrance. Luxury cars pulled up one after another. Valets held umbrellas, bowed, and opened doors for the guests. I walked over with my old duffel bag and was stopped at the entrance. "Sir, this is a private banquet tonight. Please present your invitation." I had no invitation. I did not even have a decent change of clothes. I looked down at myself. A gray coat from prison, mud still clinging to the soles of my shoes. The staff member's gaze changed immediately, still polite, but now guarded. I looked past him and into the brightly lit banquet hall. Beside the champagne tower, Shen Jie was clinking glasses with someone. He Yunjo stood beside her and accepted a glass of wine on her behalf. Xinghe held a cake carefully in front of him. "Godfather, make a wish." The people around them laughed. He Yunjo bent down and ruffled her hair. Today is your mom's special day. Godfather doesn't need a wish. Xinghe can make one for me. Xinghe nodded. Seriously, then I hope mom and godfather, he will always be happy. I stood at the door. Suddenly, I remembered the night 3 years ago. Xinghe was only 5 then. She wrapped her arms around my neck, her little face red from crying. When will daddy come home? I told her. Soon. How soon is soon? When Xinghe grows a little taller, daddy will be back. Back then, she believed me. Now, she had grown taller, and she was no longer waiting for me. The staff member reached out to stop me. Sir, you can't go in. I pushed his hand aside and walked into the banquet hall. The noise gradually faded. First, the people nearest me stopped talking. Then more and more eyes turned toward me. Someone recognized me. Isn't that Shen Zhiyi's husband? The one who went to prison. He got out today. What is he doing here? The voices were not loud, but they were not quiet enough to miss. The moment Shen Zhiyi saw me, her expression changed. She put down her wine glass and walked over quickly. Lu Chen. She stopped in front of me. 3 years had passed. She was thinner than before, and her presence was colder. She used to wear a white shirt and stay up all night with me, revising proposals. When she was exhausted, she would fall asleep on the desk. Every time she woke up, her first question was always, Lu Chen, will the funding come through? Now she stood at the center of the crowd, and everyone called her President Shen. I looked at her, busy with work. Her lips parted slightly. The situation tonight is special. I plan to pick you up later, so you sent the driver instead. She frowned. Lu Chen, don't say this here. Then, where should I say it? She lowered her voice. At home. Home. Hearing that word from her mouth felt strangely unfamiliar. Xinghe ran over from He Yunzhou's side. She had been smiling, but when she saw me, she stopped. I crouched down and tried to make my voice gentle. Xinghe. She hid behind Shen Zhiyi, showing only half her face as she looked at me. I'm daddy. She did not move. She did not call me either. My outstretched hand froze in the air. He Yunzhou walked over. He still carried that gentle, dignified manner. Mr. Lu, it's good that you're out. He extended a hand. Live properly. From now on, Zhiyi and Xinghe have had a hard time these past few years. Don't make them worry anymore. At those words, the gazes around me grew heavier, as if I had truly committed some unforgivable crime. And even being allowed to stand here today was a mercy from the Shen family. I looked at his hand, but I did not shake it. He Yunzhou did not look embarrassed. He slowly withdrew his hand, lowered his head to Xinghe, and said, Xinghe, say hello. Xinghe clutched Shen Zhiyi's skirt. After a long while, she called out very softly, Dad. It was so faint, so reluctant, as if she had been forced. I nodded. You've grown taller. Xinghe lowered her head and whispered, Mom, he smells like prison. The banquet hall became even quieter. Shen Zhiyi's face turned pale. Xinghe. But she only called her name. She did not correct her. She did not say, don't talk about your father that way. Nor did she tell Xinghe why I had spent those 3 years in prison. He Yunzhou sighed softly. She's young. She doesn't know any better. Mr. Lu, please don't take it to heart. I looked at him. The black lapel pin on his chest glinted coldly under the light. 3 years ago, he had stood in the rain with that same tone. Polite, gentle, as if he were thinking only of what was best for me. But the knife had already been in his hand. Shen Zhiyi called the driver. Let's go home first. I picked up my duffel bag and followed her out. But Xinghe turned back toward He Yunzhou. Godfather, aren't you coming with us? He Yunzhou smiled. Godfather still has guests to look after. I'll come see you tomorrow. Xinghe got into the car, reluctantly. The car was quiet. Shen Zhiyi sat beside me, head lowered as she replied to messages on her phone. I caught a few words on the screen. President Shen, the media photograph. Mr. Lu, should we suppress the trending topic first? President, he said he would handle it. The press conference materials still need confirmation tonight. I looked away. Xinghe sat on the other side of the back seat, holding a white rabbit plushie. A small tag hung around its neck. Brave Bunny. A gift from Uncle He to Xinghe. I asked, do you like rabbits? She was startled, as if she had not expected me to speak to her. After a few seconds, she nodded. Godfather, he said, rabbits run fast, so bad people can't catch them. I asked, who are the bad people? She said nothing. Shen Zhiyi lifted her head and glanced at me. Lu Chen, Xinghe is timid. Don't ask her things like that. I smiled. I can't even ask one question. She turned her phone face down on her lap. You just came back. She needs time to adjust. I said nothing more. The Shen family villa was still in Lianshan. Only the lock at the door had changed. I stood in front of it and entered the old password. Wrong. I tried again. Still wrong. Shen Zhiyi walked over and entered a new set of numbers. The door opened. She explained. It was changed on Xinghe's birthday. I forgot to tell you. I looked at the new fingerprint scanner. Were my fingerprints deleted too? Shen Zhiyi did not answer. The housekeeper came out to greet us. When she saw me, her expression froze for a moment. Mr. Lu, you're back. Not President La. Just, Mr. Lu. I walked into the living room. The first thing I saw was the photo on the entryway cabinet. There used to be a photo of the three of us there. In the year Xinghe was born, Shen Jie held her in her arms, and I stood beside them with swollen eyes from too many sleepless nights. I was exhausted, but I smiled like a fool. Now that photo was gone. It had been replaced. Shen Jie, Xinghe, He Yunzhou. They stood by the sea. The wind lifted Xinghe's skirt. She had her arms around He Yunzhou's neck, and Shen Jie stood beside them, smiling. A very natural family portrait. I stood at the entrance, suddenly unsure where to put my luggage. Shen Jie followed my gaze. Her eyes flickered. Xinghe used to cry whenever she saw your photo. I was afraid she'd be upset, so I put it away for now. Xinghe added from beside her. Godfather, he said people shouldn't live in the past. Shen Jie's face turned even paler. I nodded. He's right. I went upstairs to the master bedroom. In the closet, only a few old shirts of mine remained. Hanging in the corner, my study had been converted into a piano room. The bookshelf was gone. The walls were covered with Xinghe's award certificates. A white piano stood by the window. On its lid was a photo of He Yunzhou and Xinghe. In the photo, He Yunzhou sat beside the piano while Xinghe leaned on his shoulder. Both of them were smiling. I stood at the doorway for a moment. Shen Jie came up behind me. Xinghe has been learning piano these past few years. The study was empty anyway, so I thought, where are my books? In the storage room. What about the case files? Shen Jie paused. Lu Chen, don't keep looking at things from the past. I turned around. She avoided my eyes. You just got out. Focus on resting. Don't keep dwelling on what happened. I said nothing. That night, after Xinghe went to sleep, Shen Jie poured me a glass of warm water and set it on the coffee table. Lu Chen, about tonight. I didn't arrange things properly. I stared at the glass. She used to know I did not drink warm water. I liked cold water, even in winter. But, after 3 years, those little habits probably no longer mattered. She sat across from me. The company is at a very critical stage. The IPO pre-review just passed, and everyone is watching. You suddenly appearing at the banquet. I have to consider the media. So you didn't forget to pick me up. She looked at me. I said, you knew I was being released today. Her fingers curled slightly. You just thought picking me up wasn't as important as the celebration. She was silent for a long time. Lu Chen, can you not speak like that? I laughed softly. Does it sound bad? She frowned. I know you resent me, but these 3 years haven't been easy for me either. Shen Group nearly collapsed. Xinghe cried every day. Outside, everyone cursed us. I held everything together alone and made it this far. It wasn't easy. I nodded. It wasn't easy. She seemed to find a small foothold in that sentence. So now that you're back, I hope we won't bring up that matter again. The old case has already been decided. Nothing can be overturned. The most important thing for you now is to start over. Start over? I can arrange for you to go abroad and rest for a while, or I can give you a quiet position in the group. Don't worry about money or a place to live. She sounded sincere, serious, even as if she were offering me a lifeline. I looked at her. Shen Jie, have you ever told Xinghe why I went to prison? Her face stiffened. She was too young back then. She isn't that young anymore. I didn't know how to say it. Did He Yunzhou say it for you? She pressed her lips together. Lu Chen, he really helped me a lot these past 3 years. I nodded, including helping you tell my daughter that her father was a criminal. Shen Jie stood up. You just got back. You're emotionally unstable. Rest tonight. She turned to leave. I called her name. Shen Jie. She stopped. I asked, 3 years ago, you said you would wait for me. Her back stiffened. I did wait. Until Xinghe called someone else godfather? She whirled around. Can you stop dragging the child into this? For 3 years, Xinghe didn't have a father. He Yunzhou took her to the hospital, to school, to her birthdays. Is it wrong for her to rely on him? I looked at her. No, it isn't wrong. She froze. I lowered my gaze to the water on the table. It's my fault. My fault for believing someone would wait. My fault for believing sacrifice would be remembered. At that moment, my phone vibrated, an unfamiliar number. I walked out to the balcony and answered. An old voice came from the other end. You're out? I looked down into the garden. The crabapple tree I had planted with my own hands was gone. In its place was a children's swing set. A small sign hung beside it. A gift from Uncle He for Xinghe's 8th birthday. I said, yes, Officer Lu, the review hearing starts in 7 days. Don't show your hand too early. We're still missing the final piece on He Yunzhou's side. I lowered my eyes. I know. You've just returned to the Shen family. They'll provoke you. Don't act impulsively. I smiled faintly. Elder Zhou, after 3 years in prison, the thing I learned best was endurance. He sighed. Don't trust emotions too much, but don't become too suspicious of them either. I did not answer that. After the call ended, I stood on the balcony for a long time. In the living room, Shen Jie picked up the photo of the 3 of them as if she meant to put it away. In the end, she only moved it slightly to the side. I watched her, and the last trace of warmth in my heart quietly faded. The next morning, Xinghe was full of excitement at breakfast. "Mommy, today is family day. The teacher said we can make pottery cups with our parents." My hand paused around my chopsticks. Shen Zhiyi glanced at me. I said, "I'll go." Xinghe's smile disappeared. She lowered her head and stirred the porridge in her bowl. Shen Zhiyi softened her voice. "Lu Chen, you just got out. Your health hasn't recovered. The school will be crowded. And maybe what?" She lowered her voice. "Maybe someone might recognize you." I looked at her. Recognize me as her father. Her expression turned unpleasant. "You know that's not what I meant." Xinghe suddenly spoke in a small voice. "Mom, can Godfather he go?" The table fell silent. I looked at her. She did not dare look back at me. The doorbell rang at exactly the right time. The nanny went to open it. He Yunzhou stood outside, carrying breakfast. "Good morning." I passed by the bakery Xinghe likes, so I picked up some strawberry tarts for her. Xinghe immediately jumped down from her chair. "Uncle he." She ran over and hugged his leg. The movement was so natural, as if she had done it 1,000 times. He Yunzhou bent down to hand her the breakfast, then looked up at me. "Mr. Lu is here too." Then, as if realizing the words were inappropriate, he smiled. "Sorry, I've gotten used to coming by every day to check on Xinghe." Shen Zhiyi did not deny it. I put down my chopsticks. "Isn't it family day? Let's go." Shen Zhiyi frowned. "Lu Chen." I picked up my jacket. "I'm not making a scene. I'm only going to watch my daughter make a clay cup." The school playground was lively. Parents and children lined up to sign in. Teachers stood by the gate, handing out number tags. I stood nearby, watching Xinghe walk ahead, while holding He Yunzhou's hand. The teacher smiled and asked, "Xinghe, is this your dad?" Xing hesitated. He Yunzhou was about to speak when she said, "This is my uncle he." The teacher paused, then smiled to smooth things over. "Oh, your godfather." Xinghe is lucky to have so many people who love her. He Yunzhou patted Xinghe's head. She misspoke. Don't take a child's words too seriously. But the smile on his face never faded. Shen Zhiyi stood nearby. She heard it. She did not correct him. I stood behind the crowd and watched Xinghe hand the finished pottery cup to He Yunzhou. The cup was crooked. On it, she had carved 4 words. "Dad, you worked hard." My hands were in my coat pockets. There was a piece of candy inside. Before I left prison, another inmate had given it to me. "Kids like sweet things," he said. "Give it to your daughter." Now the candy had melted slightly in my palm. At the end of the event, the teacher organized everyone for a group photo. I walked over. When Xinghe saw me, her expression tensed. "Dad, why are you still here?" I said, "I've been here the whole time." She said nothing. A little boy beside her asked, "Xinghe, who is he?" Xinghe opened her mouth. He Yunzhou said softly, "Xinghe, this is your father. Don't be afraid." That "don't be afraid" landed on me like a guilty verdict. The little boy asked again, "Why didn't your dad join you earlier?" Xinghe lowered her head. "He was busy." "Busy?" I suddenly smiled. He Yunzhou looked at me, a trace of smugness almost invisible in his eyes. I turned and walked toward the school gate. Just as I stepped outside, a man suddenly rushed out. "Lu Chen." Before I could turn around, a rotten orange hit my shoulder. Juice splattered over my clothes. Parents nearby gasped and stepped back. The man was restrained by security, but he still struggled to charge forward. "Murderer, how dare you show your face at a school?" I recognized him. Chen Yan, the younger brother of Yu Xianghai, the man who died 3 years ago. Yu Xianghai had been Shen Group's finance manager. He died under Yunjiang Bridge on a rainy night. According to the case file, I had argued with him over the company accounts and, in a moment of rage, pushed him over the railing. Chen Yan's eyes were bloodshot. His voice was hoarse, as if scraped raw. 3 years in prison, and you think that's enough? What about my brother's life? He grabbed another stone from the ground, but security pinned him down. "You killed my brother, and now you dare come back and act like a father. What right do you have?" Phones rose all around us. Someone recognized me. "It really is Lu Chen. How did he get into the school?" Someone unlike him came to a family event. Shen Zhiyi arrived quickly. Her first reaction was not to check whether I was hurt. It was to look at the cameras. "Stop filming." Then she said to the bodyguards, "Take Mr. Lu to the car." "Mr. Lu." I looked at her. "Are you afraid I'll get hit? Or afraid I'll be filmed?" Her expression changed. "Lu Chen, this isn't the time." "When is the time?" She suppressed her anger. "Do you have to make a scene at the school gate?" Before I could answer, Chen Yan suddenly shouted, "There's a ghost inside Shen Group. Before my brother died, he told me someone in Shen Group wanted to." The bodyguards dragged him backward. His voice was swallowed by the chaos. Hyunjo stood not far away, holding Xinghei's hand. He did not come closer. He only said softly, "Let's go." Then he added, "Some crimes can't be paid for with just 3 years." Xinghei heard it. She gripped Hyunjo's hand tightly. When she looked at me again, there was more fear in her eyes. The video from that day quickly became a local trending topic. Shen Group chairwoman's husband appears at primary school after prison release. Family of rainy night murder. Victim condemns him in public. Old Shen Group case resurfaces on eve of IPO. That evening, Shen Jir-e placed a document in front of me. Public conduct restriction and crisis assistance agreement. I flipped through a few pages. During the listing period, I was not allowed to go out alone. I was not allowed to contact the media. I was not allowed to communicate with the victim's family. I was not allowed to make any public statement about the case from 3 years ago. I was not allowed to do anything that might affect Shen Group's reputation during its IPO process. Penalty for breach of contract, 30 million yuan. I closed the file. You want to put me under house arrest? Shen Jir-e sat across from me, exhausted. It's not house arrest. It's to protect you. And to protect Xinghei. Protect who? You saw what happened today. If you go out now, you'll only be attacked. The media will follow you. The victim's family will come after you. Xinghei will be affected too. I asked, what about Shen Group? She said nothing. I finished the sentence for her. Shen Group will be affected too. She closed her eyes. Lu Chen, Shen Group's IPO is one step from completion. That scandal 3 years ago nearly destroyed the company. We can't afford any more trouble now. So I can't make a mistake. Can you stop making everything sound so harsh? I looked at her. Are the words harsh? Or is the truth ugly? Her eyes reddened. I know you were wrong. But now that you're back, I can make it up to you. Money, a house, a job, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. What about my innocence? She froze. I asked, Shen Jir-e, can you give me that? Her expression slowly cooled. The case has already been decided. So what? Digging it up now will only drag everyone down. I smiled. Including Hyunjo? She frowned. Why are you always targeting him? I said nothing. Shen Jir-e looked as if she had been holding these words in for a long time. Without him, Shen Group wouldn't have survived these 3 years. Xinghei wouldn't have either. Lu Chen, you don't have to like him, but you can't deny everything he's done, just because you're jealous. Jealous. I rolled that word around in my mouth once. It did not hurt. It only felt absurd. I picked up the pen. Shen Jir-e thought I was going to sign, and her body visibly relaxed. On the last page, I wrote one word. Read. Then, I pushed the document back. I've read it. She stared at the word. What does this mean? I don't agree. Her expression darkened. Lu Chen, don't push me. I stood up. You said the same thing 3 years ago. Her fingers trembled. I did not look at her again and went upstairs. As I passed Xinghei's room, I noticed the door was not fully closed. Her voice came from inside. Uncle He, did Dad make Mom angry again? Hyunjo's voice followed. Xinghei, adult matters are not for children to worry about. But Mom seems really sad. Your mom has been sad for years. His voice was very gentle. So Xinghei needs to be obedient and protect her. What about Dad? The room went quiet for 2 seconds. Hyunjo said, if he really loved you and your mom, he wouldn't keep making things hard for you. I stood outside the door, my hand resting on the knob. Xinghei whispered, will he hurt us? Hyunjo chuckled softly. Your godfather isn't afraid. I slowly released my grip. I did not push the door open. Explanations were useless. They had already written my role for me. A man freshly released from prison. Bitter, unstable, jealous. People who have been locked up might take revenge on society. A husband who was replaced would lose control. What a useful label. The next day, I went to the old district. Han Zhao was waiting for me at a small phone repair shop. The faded sign above the door read, honest repairs, fair prices. He was crouched behind the counter with a lollipop in his mouth, dismantling a motherboard. When he saw me, he clicked his tongue. Brother Lu, the Shen family didn't even send a car for you. I took off my hat. Less talk, more work. He grinned, closed the door, and pulled the shutter halfway down. Your wife didn't welcome you like a king? Are you always this talkative? I had to bottle it up in prison. Han Zhao was 5 years younger than me. He had once been part of a hacker group in Cloud City. Later, he went to prison for breaking into a financial system. Inside, he offended the wrong people and was cornered in the laundry room by several inmates. They nearly beat him to death. I saved him once. After that, he called me Brother Lu. I slid a photo of Hyunjo across the table. The car cloud backup you mentioned. Can it still be accessed? Han Zhao glanced at it. The smile on his face faded. That depends on the encryption key. Where is the key? He tapped the black lapel pin on Hyunjo's chest in the photo. Here. I frowned. The pin. 3 years ago, Shen Group installed custom encrypted systems in several executives' cars. The key chips could be built into wearable accessories. Don't ask me why rich people love making simple things fancy. He zoomed in. On the photo, that lapel pin Hee Yoon-jo is wearing is most likely one of them. If he tampered with the vehicle logs, there should still be a record. Do I need to get the pin? No. Just take a clear photo of the serial number on the back. Are you sure, Brother Lou? This is how I made a living before I went inside. He paused. But be careful. If Hee Yoon-jo really has something to do with the case from 3 years ago, he won't let you off easily. I put the photo away. He already hasn't. After I left the repair shop, I received a message from Hee Yoon-jo. Mr. Lou, care for a cup of tea. Some things should be settled between men. I stared at the message for a few seconds. Then, I replied with one word, fine. The tea house was by the Cloud River. The private room smelled of agarwood, and through the window, the river flowed gray beneath the sky. Hee Yoon-jo was already there. He wore a light gray suit with exquisite cufflinks. As always, the black lapel pin was on his chest. He poured me a cup of tea. Mr. Lou, sit. I sat down, but I did not drink. He smiled. Afraid I poisoned it. Afraid. It's dirty. His smile paused for a fraction of a second, then returned. 3 years in prison, and your temper hasn't changed. I looked at him. Neither have you, have I not? He leaned back, posture relaxed. I think I've changed quite a lot. 3 years ago, I was only a vice president at Shen Group. Now half the projects pass through my hands. Jur-E trusts me. Singhae relies on me. He took a slow sip of tea. People have to move forward. I did not answer. He continued. Lu Chen, what do you want now that you're back? What do you think? Money, status, a family. He spoke as if carefully weighing my situation for me. Jur-E will give you money. As for status, it isn't appropriate for you to appear in public right now. As for family, he paused, and his smile faded slightly. Some seats, when left empty for too long, taken by someone else. You can't blame others for that. I stared at the tea leaves floating in my cup. Like the seed of a father, he smiled. Singhae is very smart, very sensitive. She knows who stays by her side, and who only embarrasses her. I looked up. Only then did true malice appear in his eyes. She has nightmares at night, and calls for me, not you. I was the one who took her to her first piano competition. When her fever reached 40 degrees, I carried her to the hospital. Lu Chen, what you missed is more than 3 years. I listened, every word cut like a blade, but I did not move. Hee Yoon-jo probably wanted me to flip the table, curse him, or better yet, throw a punch. That way, he could prove I was exactly what they said I was. Unstable, violent, dangerous. I only asked. 3 years ago, on the day I signed the confession, you were there too. His fingers paused, very lightly, but I saw it. Soon, he smiled again. Yes, you signed very quickly. He leaned forward. I still remember the way you looked at Juri while she cried. Your hands were trembling. Lu Chen, you really loved her. I smiled too. You have a good memory. Of course, he said. Some scenes never fade. I stood, picked up the teapot, and refilled his cup. Hot tea slowly filled it. Hee Yoon-jo instinctively leaned back. The collar of his suit shifted slightly. On the back of the black lapel pin, a sliver of engraved characters appeared. The phone in my palm was already aligned. I pressed the shutter. Done. The cup was full. I set down the teapot. The tea is good. Hee Yoon-jo stared at me. He seemed to sense something was wrong, but could not identify what. I picked up my cup. I have something else to do. I'll leave first. He called from behind me. Lu Chen, I stopped. Don't look into what happened 3 years ago. It's beyond your reach. I turned back. Are you afraid? He chuckled. I'm afraid for you. I said nothing more. After leaving the tea house, I sent the photo to Han Zhao. 5 minutes later, he replied, the number is clear. I can search it. Brother, Lu, steady hands. I put my phone away. When I returned to the Shen house, the living room was in chaos. Singhae had cried until her eyes were red. My bracelet is gone. The silver bracelet had been given to her by Hee Yoon-jo. She treasured it so much that she refused to take it off, even when bathing. The nanny, driver, and maid were all searching. Shen Jur-E crouched in front of her, coaxing her. Don't worry, Mom will have everyone look for it. Hee Yoon-jo was there too. He stood to the side and sighed softly. Singhae, think carefully. Did you put it somewhere? Singhae shook her head through tears. I was wearing it the whole time. Hee Yoon-jo looked at me. The glance was very light, so light that it seemed accidental. Yet the living room fell briefly silent. Singhae looked at me too. Dad, she bit her lip. Did you take it? Shen Jur-E's face changed. Singhae, don't talk nonsense. But she was not looking at Singhae. She was looking at me. In that instant, I understood. She was waiting for my explanation too. I asked, do you think it was me as well? Shen Jur-E opened her mouth. I just want to know the truth. The truth about what? That I just got out of prison and have no money. So I stole my daughter's bracelet. Her expression turned ugly. Hee Yoon-jo immediately said, Mr. Lu, don't misunderstand. Singhei was just anxious. Children say careless things. You're very good at covering for her. I walked to the sofa, bent down, and lifted a corner of the rug. A silver bracelet was caught underneath. I picked it up and placed it on the coffee table. Here, Singhei immediately rushed over and grabbed it. But once it was in her hand, her happiness did not last long. She looked at me and asked quietly, "Then, how did you know it was there?" The living room fell deathly silent. I looked at my daughter. She was 8 years old, not old enough to recognize a frame-up, but she had already learned to suspect me first. Shen Zhi said, softly, "Lu Chen, that's not what she meant." I looked at He Yunzhou, because when I walked in, I saw Vice President, his cufflink catch on the edge of the rug. He Yunzhou laughed lightly. "Mr. Lu, are you implying that I hid the bracelet?" "I wouldn't dare," I said calmly. "You're the Shen family's great benefactor now. Who would dare say anything about you?" Shen Zhi frowned. "Lu Chen, that's enough." He Yunzhou sighed. "Zhi, don't blame him. He just got out. It's natural for him to be sensitive." I did not argue further, because Singhei had already put the bracelet back on. When she fastened it, I noticed a tiny blue light flicker inside the clasp. A tracking chip. I glanced at it. I did not remove it. If I dismantled it now, no one would believe me. That evening, Anzhao sent information. The number corresponds to a cloud key for a senior Shen Group executive vehicle 3 years ago. There is a deletion record, but I need a more complete index. That bastard He Yunzhou has dirty hands. I stared at the screen. Footsteps came from outside the door. It was Shen Zhi. She stood at the doorway, not entering. I apologize on Singhei's behalf for what happened today. On her behalf, she pressed her lips together. She's still young. I nodded. So what about the adults? She lowered her eyes. Lu Chen, you weren't this aggressive before. I looked up at her. I had never spent 3 years in prison before either. Her face paled. I placed my phone face down on the table. Shen Zhi, have you ever wondered why Singhei's first reaction was to accuse me of stealing? She stayed silent. Because this is what all of you taught her. I didn't. You didn't say it, but you allowed it. Her eyes reddened. I admit, I don't know how to face you. The moment you came back, the old case, the media, the victim's family, it all came crashing down on me again. I'm exhausted. Her voice dropped. Lu Chen, it's not that I don't want to protect you. It's just, I finished for her. It's just that Shen Group matters more. She did not deny it. Shu Qinggran contacted me on the morning of the 6th day. She had once been an assistant to my defense lawyer. Before the trial, she had asked me privately, "Mr. Lu, are you really pleading guilty voluntarily?" I did not answer her back then. After the case was settled, she was transferred away. Now, she had her own law firm. We met in a small cab. She spread copies of the old case files across the table. The case was handled too hastily, she said, cutting straight to the point. Yu Xianghai's time of death was between 10 and 11 at night. The file says you were at Yunjiang Bridge at 10, but the only footage captured your car passing the south side of the bridge. It never showed you on the north side, where the body was found. I flipped through the documents. She pointed to another page. And this forensic report. There were black fibers under Yu Xianghai's fingernails. Your coat that night was gray wool. It didn't match. But you confessed too quickly, so the defense never pushed deeper. I asked, are you willing to take the case now? Shu Qinggran looked at me. It's not that I'm willing. I've been waiting for 3 years. I was slightly surprised. She smiled bitterly. You probably don't remember. After the trial, you said something to me. You said that, if one day someone was willing to listen to you, you hoped I would still be practicing law. I really did not remember. At that time, my mind had been full of Shen Zhi and Singhei. Shu Qinggran slid a business card across the table. Lu Chen, I'm still here. I took it. She asked, when do you plan to act? Tomorrow. Shen Group's IPO launch? I nodded. She frowned. The risk is huge. They chose the place. She understood. It was not that I insisted on making a scene. It was that Shen Zhi and He Yunzhou planned to nail me down forever in that very place. Shu Qinggran was silent for a moment. Then, don't leave them any way out. I smiled faintly. I don't plan to. At noon, Shen Zhi called me. Singhei's birthday banquet is tonight. Don't forget. I held the phone for a moment. I remember, in the past 3 years, I had never forgotten her birthday. The first year, I carved a small star into the lid of my prison meal container. The second year, I saved half a month's work credits to exchange for a sheet of letter paper. I wrote half a letter, then tore it up. The third year, I made a little wooden horse. It was never delivered. That evening, the Shen family held a birthday banquet. All the guests were Shen Group executives and partners. It was called a child's birthday party, but in truth, it was a warm-up event before the IPO launch. He Yunzhou gifted Singhei a smart piano, a white piano that could play by itself. The moment Singhei saw it, she rushed over and hugged him. Thank you, Godfather he. Applause filled the room. Someone laughed and said, President, he cares more than a real father. The speaker seemed to remember that I was standing there and fell silent awkwardly. He Yunzhou only smiled naturally. as long as Singhae likes it. I stood outside the crowd, holding a paper bag. Inside was the little wooden horse I had made. It could not compare with the smart piano. It had no lights, no music. I had polished every edge by hand, so the wood would not scratch her. At the bottom of the base, I had hidden a tiny recorder. 3 years ago, before I entered the detention center, I had asked my lawyer to help me leave a birthday message. Before the cake was cut, Shen Jie walked over. "Did you prepare a gift?" I handed her the paperback. She glanced inside, her expression complicated. "This is." Singhae liked these when she was little. Shen Jie was silent for a moment. "She's grown up now." I nodded. "I know." When Singhae opened her gifts, she first opened the piano remote. Then, a princess dress set from Heeunjo. When she reached my paper bag, the anticipation on her face had already faded. She took out the wooden horse. She paused. "What is this?" I said. "You used to love riding one like it when you were little." Singhae frowned. "I'm not a little kid anymore." Someone nearby chuckled softly. Shen Jie immediately said, "Singhae, Daddy put a lot of thought into preparing this." Singhae bit her lip, but did not say thank you. She set the wooden horse aside and ran back to the piano. I watched her. I said nothing. When she cut the cake, she closed her eyes and made a wish. "I hope Mom and Uncle he will always stay with me." The candles went out. Applause rang. I stood 3 steps away, my hands still carrying tiny cuts from the wood shavings. At that moment, I suddenly no longer wanted to keep waiting for her to turn around. It was not that I did not love her. It was just that when a person is pushed away too many times, he eventually learns that standing in place has its own kind of shame. After the banquet, I placed the little wooden horse back into the bag. I was about to take it away when Singhae chased me to the door. "Dad." I stopped. She looked at the bag in my hand. "Can it stay?" I was a little surprised. She whispered, "Mom said you spent a long time making it." I handed her the bag. "Sure." She reached out to take it. Then, murmured, "But I might not play with it." I reached out and touched her hair. It was the first time I had touched her since coming back. Her body stiffened. My fingers stopped too. In the end, I withdrew my hand. "Happy birthday." She held the wooden horse and looked at me with complicated eyes, as if she wanted to say something but did not know how. Downstairs, Heeunjo called her. "Singhae, come, try the piano." She immediately turned. Coming, she ran a few steps with the wooden horse in her arms, then placed it by the stairs and hurried into the living room. I stared at the little wooden horse left behind. I did not pick it up again. On the night of the 6th day, Chen Yan came to find me. He drove a taxi and parked at the entrance of an alley in the old district. When I got into the car, he did not curse at me. He only stared straight ahead. "Why didn't you defend yourself back then?" I buckled my seatbelt. "Because someone threatened me with my wife and daughter." Chen Yan sneered. "You think I'd believe that? It doesn't matter whether you believe it." His grip on the steering wheel tightened. "My brother called me before he died." I looked at him. His Adam's apple moved. He said someone inside Shen Group was laundering money. He found evidence and was going to give it to you. He also said that if anything happened to him, I shouldn't believe whatever Shen Group told the public. Is the recording still there? Chen Yan took an old phone from the storage compartment. "Here, but the screen is broken, and it won't turn on." I asked someone to fix it, but they couldn't. I took the phone. "I'll find someone to try." Chen Yan looked at me. He said one more thing. I looked up. He said the man was wearing a black lapel pin. The car fell very quiet. Only the windshield wipers scraped slowly across the glass. Chen Yan's eyes reddened. "Lu Chen, if it really wasn't you, I'll apologize." "No need. But if you're lying to me, you can come kill me." He said nothing more. I brought the old phone to Han Zhao. His eyes lit up when he saw it. "An antique. Can you fix it?" "Partially." "How long?" "Tonight." He looked up at me. "Tomorrow's press conference." I nodded. Han Zhao whistled. "Brother Lu, this isn't overturning a case. This is tearing down a whole building." I sat beside him and watched him dismantle the phone. The shop lights were dim. The ceiling fan creaked as it turned. At 2 in the morning, Han Zhao finally restored a short section of recording from the noise. Rain, labored breathing. Yu Shanghai's voice came through in fragments. "Chen Yan, don't come to Shen Group. There's something wrong with the accounts." Static. Heeunjo. Black lapel pin. Another burst of static. "He's going to push the blame onto President Shen." Then came the sound of a car door opening. A man's low voice followed. "Manager Yu, some things can get a man killed if he knows too much." Han Zhao pressed pause. He looked at me. "That voice belongs to Heeunjo, right?" I closed my eyes. "Yes." He saved 3 copies of the audio. There's also the in-car cloud storage. I used the lapel pin number to search the index. At 9:47 p.m. on the 18th of June 3 years ago, the car that went onto Yunjiang Bridge wasn't yours. It was Heeunjo's. The deletion logs are still there, and the encryption key matches. I stared at the computer screen. The vehicle route went from Shen Group's underground garage to the north side of Yunjiang Bridge, then to an abandoned warehouse. Every location felt like testimony that had arrived 3 years late. Han Zhao cursed under his breath. That bastard really had nerve. He dared because everyone thought I wouldn't fight back. Did your wife think so too? I did not answer. Han Zhao glanced at me and stopped asking. Just before dawn, Lin Man sent me a message. President Liu, can we meet? She asked to meet in Shen Group's underground parking lot. When I arrived, she was standing behind a pillar, her face pale. Lin Man was Shen Zhiyi's secretary and a longtime employee of Shen Group. Years ago, when her mother was critically ill and could not get a hospital bed, I was the one who helped arrange it. In these 3 years, the first time I saw her again was at the hotel banquet. She had glanced at me once, then immediately lowered her head. Now, when she saw me, she still called me President Liu. I looked at her. What is it? She pressed a USB drive into my hand. Her hands were shaking. This has the recording from last night's executive meeting and a backup of the fund flow. Why give this to me? Her eyes reddened. Because I heard President He say that once the IPO succeeds, they'll sideline President Shen. I did not respond. She bit her lip. And they plan to have you read a statement at the press conference. They'll make you confess again to the old case first, then arrange for reporters to ask questions. Director Zhao said that as long as you admit it publicly, even if a review starts later, it will be very difficult for you to clear your name. I took the USB drive. Does Shen Zhiyi know? Lin Man fell silent. The answer was clear. Shen Zhiyi knew there would be a statement. She knew what that statement meant. She probably only did not know that He Yunzhou had also arranged the reporters. I put away the USB drive. Lin Man suddenly began to cry. President Liu, I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. I do. Her voice choked. 3 years ago, after your accident, I saw a record showing the surveillance directory had been deleted. I knew something was wrong, but Shen Group was in chaos. President Shen was barely holding everything together. I didn't have the courage to speak. I looked at her. Do you have the courage now? She wiped away her tears. If I don't, then no one ever will. When I returned to the Shen house, Shen Zhiyi was waiting for me. A speech draft lay on the coffee table. She had not slept all night. Her eyes were bloodshot. Where did you go? To meet someone. Who? You don't know him. She frowned. Lu Chen, the press conference is today. Don't cause unnecessary trouble. I walked over and picked up the draft. First page. First line. I once made an irreversible mistake out of impulse. Second page. Thank you for giving someone who has made mistakes a second chance. Third page. I will reform myself and no longer become a burden to my family or society. I put the draft down. You want me to confess that I killed someone? Shen Zhiyi's face turned pale. It isn't about confessing. It's about turning the page. Turning the page. I looked at her. Shen Zhiyi, I spent 3 years in prison while you spent 3 years taking the company public. Which page do you think should be turned? Her eyes reddened. Can you stop saying it like that? I know, you've suffered, but I have no other choice. Public opinion has already flared up online. All the investors will be there today. If the old case resurfaces, Shen Group will be finished. So I have to die again. Lu Chen, her voice slipped out of control. Why can't you help me one more time? Just this. Once, after the IPO, I'll compensate you. I'll arrange for you to go abroad and rest. I'll help Xinghe slowly accept you. I looked at her. 3 years ago, she had said almost the same thing. Just this once. If I signed, Shen Group would survive, and Xinghe could grow up safely. I had believed her then. Now she had brought another piece of paper and placed the pen before me again. A small figure stood at the stairwell. Xinghe had been listening for who knew how long. Daddy, her eyes were red. Please stop hurting Mom. I turned to look at her. When she said those words, Shen Zhiyi panicked too. Xinghe, go back to your room. But Xinghe did not move. She looked at me, frightened and aggrieved. Mom has had such a hard time these past few years. Uncle he too. The moment you came back, everyone stopped being happy. My throat tightened. Xinghe, I asked slowly, what if I told you I didn't kill anyone? She froze. Shen Zhiyi stared at me too. It was the first time I had said it in front of both of them. If I told you that I didn't kill you Shanghai 3 years ago, and that I went to prison because someone threatened me with you and your mom, would you believe me? Xinghe looked panicked. She was too young. She did not know whom to trust. But soon, she lowered her head and whispered, Godfather. He said people who make mistakes always say things like that. The room fell silent. Even Shen Zhiyi did not speak. I looked at the child I had thought about every day for 3 years behind bars. Her voice was full of tears, but the knife had already entered. I nodded. I understand. Shen Zhiyi hurried over. Lu Chen, she's still young. She didn't mean it. It doesn't matter what she meant. I picked up the speech draft and folded it. I'll go to the press conference. Shen Zhiyi froze. Then she let out a breath of relief. You're willing? I looked at her. Yes. She probably thought I had given in again. Xinghe thought so too. She even looked at me with uneasy eyes. I gave no explanation. Half an hour before the press conference, I received a text from Elder Zhou. At exactly 10 o'clock, the special investigation order takes effect. Xu Qinggran sent over the compiled procedural documents. Han Zhao sent the complete data package. Lin Man sent a backup of the meeting recording. Shen Yan sent one message. I'm on site. I put my phone into my pocket and glanced at the little wooden horse by the stairs. Xinghe had brought it back to her room last night, then taken it out again. Perhaps she did not know what to do with it. I bent down and placed it by her bedroom door. Then I went downstairs. Shen Group's listing launch was held at the Cloud City Financial Center. The venue was packed with media. In the center of the lobby hung a massive Shen Group poster. Shen Zhiyi stood in front of it, giving an interview. He Yunzhou stood beside her. The black lapel pin on his chest was impossible to ignore. Xinghe had come too. She wore a white dress and had been arranged to sit in the front row. When she saw me, she instinctively tightened her grip on Shen Zhiyi's hand. Shen Zhiyi walked over and straightened my collar. The motion was gentle, as if we were still the couple we used to be. Lu Chen, just read from the script. I looked at her, and after I'm done, she said softly, after you're done, we'll go home. I said nothing. Yunzhou walked over. Mr. Lu, are you ready? There will be many members of the media today. Don't be nervous. Zhao Qiming followed beside him. He was Shen Group's legal director, and one of Yunzhou's people. He handed me a more formal statement. Mr. Lu, use this final version. Reporters may ask questions, but you only need to repeat what's written here. Do not go off script. I turned a page. The last paragraph was harsher than the one Shen Zhiyi had shown me. I fully acknowledge my guilt in the crime from 3 years ago and offer my apologies to the victim's family. I looked up at him. A full confession. Zhao Qiming adjusted his glasses. This is necessary crisis management. You've already served your sentence, so there's no need to dwell on the wording. I smiled. You've thought of everything. He Yunzhou looked at me. Zhiyi is giving you a chance. You should cherish it. I closed the statement. Yes, a chance like this should be cherished. At exactly 10 o'clock, the press conference began. Shen Zhiyi went on stage. First, she spoke from memory, eloquently telling the story of Shen Group's fall and resurgence. Applause rose in waves. The large screen began playing a promotional video. He Yunzhou appeared many times. He accompanied Shen Zhiyi to meet investors. He carried Xinghe in his arms as he rushed to the hospital. He stood in Shen Group's conference room, presenting strategies. There was also a clip from the school family day. Xinghe held the pottery cup and said to the camera, "Thank you, Dad, for being with me." When that clip played, some people in the audience smiled. Someone applauded. I sat at the side of the stage and looked at the screen. He Yunzhou watched too. The corner of his mouth curved faintly, as if reminding me that everything I had missed, he had taken. The promotional video ended. The host invited me on stage. The spotlight fell on me. It was blinding. The light was so bright that I could not see the faces below. I walked to the microphone. In the first row, Xinghe kept her head lowered, not daring to look at me. Shen Zhiyi stood at the side, fingers clenched tightly. He Yunzhou stood relaxed and composed. Zhao Qiming placed the final statement in front of me. A reporter immediately stood. Mr. Lu, the murder case from that rainy night 3 years ago had a major negative impact on Shen Group. Does your appearance today mean Shen Group has officially accepted your return? Another reporter was more direct. Do you admit to your past crime? Will you apologize to the victim's family? Zhao Qiming whispered. Read from the script. Shen Zhiyi looked at me. Lu Chen, do this for me one last time. One last time. I had heard those words before. 3 years ago, on a rainy night in front of the detention center, Shen Zhiyi held Xinghe and cried until her whole body trembled. She said, "Lu Chen, help me one last time." Back then, I signed the confession. 3 years later, she said it again. But this time, I did not pick up the pen. I took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, the hall fell silent. I said, 3 years ago, I did sign a confession. Shen Zhiyi closed her eyes. He Yunzhou's smile deepened slightly. Zhao Qiming let out a breath. I looked at the cameras below the stage and continued. But that confession was signed after my wife and daughter were threatened. The venue exploded. Zhao Qiming's face changed drastically. He reached for the microphone. I stepped aside and avoided him. Shen Zhiyi suddenly turned to look at me. Lu Chen. He Yunzhou's face darkened. Mr. Lu, do you realize what you're saying? I stared at him. The murder, on that rainy night 3 years ago, I did not kill Yu Xianghai. Every reporter in the audience stood. Camera flashes burst like thunder. He Yunzhou sneered. Lu Chen, did prison ruin your mind? The verdict was clear. If you take back your words now, you'll ruin Zhiyi and the entire Shen family. He turned toward the media. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. Mr. Liu has just been released from prison, and his mental state may still be unstable. We will arrange for a doctor immediately. A sound of footsteps came from the entrance of the hall. A group of people in dark uniforms walked in. The elderly man at the front had gray hair and a straight back. Joe Huiman. He walked to the front of the stage and presented his credentials. Cloud City Special Investigation Bureau, Cold Case Review Unit. The murder case from that rainy night 3 years ago is now officially reopened. Yunjo's smile froze. Joe Huiman looked at me. Lu Chen, your status, as a collaborating investigator, is now active. I took the identification card from my pocket. All cameras turned. Chaos erupted below the stage. Someone shouted, "Isn't Lu Chen a convicted criminal? How can he be assisting the investigation?" Joe Huiman's voice was calm. During the review of the old case, Lu Chen, as the original appellant and a key cooperating investigator, participated in the supplementation of evidence in accordance with procedure. Yunjo said sharply, "Elder Joe, there must be some misunderstanding. Lu Chen is a murderer. How can his words be trusted?" Joe Huiman looked at him. Yunjo, what matters is not who you trust. What matters is what the evidence shows. The large screen suddenly went black. Then the first segment of vehicle cloud footage appeared. Time, the 18th of June, 3 years ago. 47 p.m. Location, north entrance of Yunjiang Bridge. Vehicle, Yuna, H7799. Owner, Yunjo. The footage was not perfectly clear, but it was enough to show you Shanghai getting into that car. Gasps rippled through the audience. Chen Yan stood at the back of the crowd, staring at the screen. His face was deathly pale. The second piece of evidence appeared. 23 p.m. After the crime, the vehicle's cloud data had been remotely deleted. The operation key matched the chip embedded in the black lapel pin on Yunjo's chest. Han Zhao's technical explanation was released at the same time. The number was linked to Yunjo's private account 3 years ago. The deletion operation was performed from Shen Group's underground garage. Yunjo's expression changed. He instinctively raised his hand toward his lapel pin. That tiny gesture was captured by countless cameras. He immediately lowered his hand. Fabricated. He gritted his teeth. All of this can be fabricated. Lu Chen, you'd go this far just to take revenge on me? I nodded. Then look at the next one. The large screen switched. Shen Group, internal cash flow. 3 years ago, Yu Xianghai discovered an abnormal transfer of 30 million yuan. The funds were moved from a Shen Group project account through 3 shell companies before finally landing in a private account, controlled by Yunjo. Lin Man stepped forward. Her face was pale, but she did not retreat. This document comes from Shen Group's financial backup database. I am willing to cooperate with the Special Investigation Bureau and take responsibility for the source of the information. Shen Zhi looked at her, voice trembling. Lin Man? Lin Man's tears fell. President Shen, I'm sorry, she said, but this time, I can't pretend I didn't see it. A vein pulsed at Yunjo's temple. Lin Man, do you know the consequences of falsifying company documents? Lin Man looked at him. I know. Her voice trembled, but it was clear. I also know that 3 years ago, after something happened to President Liu, someone deleted the surveillance directory. Shen Zhi swayed slightly. I watched something in her eyes shatter piece by piece, but it was still not enough. Joe Huiman raised his hand. The third audio clip began to play. Heavy rain. Yu Shanghai's voice came through, broken and intermittent. Chen Yan, don't come to Shen Group. The accounts are wrong. Static. Yunjo. Black lapel pin. More static. He's going to push the blame onto President Shen. Then came the sound of a car door opening. Yunjo's voice followed. Very low. Manager Yu, knowing too much can get you killed. The recording ended. The hall fell into a dead silence. Chen Yan suddenly rushed forward. Yunjo. The investigation personnel stopped him. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on the stage. You killed my brother, didn't you? Yunjo took a step back. Panic finally flickered across his face, but he still held on. Recordings can be forged. Who knows what tricks you pulled with something from 3 years ago? I said, you still think that, as long as I plead guilty, none of this can be overturned. Yunjo stared at me. I opened the final meeting recording. It was the one Lin Man had given me. Yunjo's voice rang out, clear and distinct. Have Lu Chen confess to the old case at the press conference. As long as he admits it publicly, even if a review starts later, it won't stir up any waves. Zhao Qiming's voice followed. What if he refuses to cooperate? Yunjo laughed. He will cooperate. Shen Zhi and that daughter are his weaknesses. If we could make him sign once 3 years ago, we can make him sign again 3 years later. The recording stopped. No one on stage spoke. Zhao Qiming's face went white. He tried to leave, only to find his way blocked by Special Investigation Bureau officers. Shen Zhi looked as if her soul had been empty. She slowly turned toward Yunjo. What did you say? He opened his mouth. Zhi, it's not what you think. think that was doctored? Did you threaten him with me and Xinghe 3 years ago? He Yunzhou did not answer. Shen Zhiyi's tears fell. You made me believe he confessed for my sake. You made me think that as long as I held Shen Group together, I wouldn't have let him down. Her voice trembled. He Yunzhou, what exactly did you do? He Yunzhou suddenly smiled. That smile was no longer gentle, no longer dignified. It was like a layer of skin, finally splitting open. What did I do? He looked at Shen Zhiyi. I supported Shen Group for you for 3 years. I drank with investors for you. I raised that daughter of yours who cries at the slightest thing. Haven't I done enough? Xinghe sat in the audience, her face white. Godfather. He Yunzhou snapped his head toward her. Don't call me that. Xinghe trembled in fear. He had already abandoned all pretense. If it weren't for Shen Group, do you think I would have played nice with a child for 3 years? You too. One was my key into the Shen family, and the other was the leash that kept Lu Chen obedient. Xinghe froze completely. The silver bracelet on her wrist slid to one side. Zhou Huaiman glanced at it, and a member of his team immediately stepped forward to remove it. The technician quickly confirmed the result. Bill, in positioning chip. Shen Zhiyi's face turned deathly pale. This bracelet. You gave it to Xinghe, He Yunzhou said. Nothing, I said calmly. He wasn't accompanying Xinghe. He was monitoring her. Tears welled in Xinghe's eyes. She looked at He Yunzhou, then at me, as if the world she had believed in for 3 years had finally cracked. Zhou Huaiman waved his hand. Take him away. The officers stepped forward and restrained He Yunzhou. He struggled to stand. Zhiyi, you can't let them take me. Shen Group's IPO can't succeed without me. Shen Zhiyi stood where she was. She did not move. When He Yunzhou was dragged off the stage, he suddenly turned to look at me. Lu Chen, you knew all along? I stared at him. You taught me 3 years ago. His eyes turned vicious. I said, don't rush to win. Winning too soon makes it easy to expose yourself. His face twisted as he was escorted out. Zhao Qiming was taken away as well. The press conference fell into complete chaos. Reporters' questions surged like a tidal wave. Shen Group's IPO, the Rainy Night murder case, He Yunzhou, capital flow, false confession. Every phrase was enough to drag the Shen family into the abyss, but Shen Zhiyi seemed not to hear any of it. She walked step by step until she stopped in front of me. Lu Chen. Her voice was so soft, it was almost swallowed by the noise. I didn't know. I looked at her. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears. I really didn't know. He Yunzhou was the murderer. I thought you confessed back then. For my sake. I thought there was no other way. I asked, you thought I really killed someone? Her lips trembled, but she could not answer. I continued, before you asked me to stand on that stage today, did you really not know I was wronged? She froze completely. I looked at her and spoke slowly. Did you not know that asking me to confess again would hurt me? Did you not know that hearing Xinghe call someone else Dad would hurt me? Did you not know that if I read that statement, I might never clear my name for the rest of my life? Shen Zhiyi's tears fell harder. I was afraid. Afraid Shen Group would be ruined. Afraid Xinghe would be cursed. Afraid the old case would be dug up again. You thought that, as long as you got through today, you could slowly make it up to me later. I smiled faintly. Make it up to me. She reached for me. I stepped back. Her hand froze in midair. Lu Chen, I'm sorry. She suddenly knelt down. There were cameras. There were reporters. But she seemed not to care anymore. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Give me another chance. I'll cooperate with the investigation. I'll thoroughly examine Shen Group. I'll tell Xinghe the truth. I'll make up for these 3 years. Shen Zhiyi. I cut her off. She looked up at me, a flicker of hope in her eyes. I asked, do you remember the day I got out of prison? Her face turned pale. Do you know what time I was released? She could not answer. Do you know how long I waited outside the prison gate? She opened her mouth. I said, 10 minutes. It was short. Compared with 3 years, 10 minutes was nothing. But, during those 10 minutes, I finally understood that no one was waiting for me outside. I went to the hotel. Your first words weren't asking whether I was cold, or how I got there. I looked at her. You asked me why I came. Shen Zhiyi sobbed, her shoulders trembling. Back then, I know, you were afraid I would ruin the banquet. She shook her head, but halfway through, she stopped, because she knew that was the truth too. When I came home, I saw my photos replaced. My study turned into a piano room, and my daughter, afraid of me. I said, Shen Zhiyi, the person you owe, isn't only me. She lowered her head, and wept. At that moment, a small voice came from behind her. Dad. Xinghe stood not far away. Her face was covered with tears. In her hand, she held the silver bracelet that had been removed. She looked at me, crying so hard, she could barely breathe. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I really didn't know Godfather. He was bad. I thought you didn't want me anymore. I thought you had done something wrong. I looked at her. An 8-year-old child should not have to bear the sins of adults. but the damage had already been done. I raised my hand, wanting to pat her head like I used to. My hand stopped in the air. In the end, I lowered it. Xinghei, you're still young. I don't blame you. Her tears fell even harder. Then come home with us. Okay. I did not answer immediately. She seemed afraid and hurried to say, I won't call anyone else dad again. I won't call him godfather anymore. I'll only call you dad. My throat tightened slightly. Xinghei, I said softly, not everything can go back to how it was just because someone says sorry. She froze. I took the bracelet from her hand and gave it to the investigation team. When you go home, look inside the little wooden horse by your door. She shook her head, crying, Daddy, I don't want the wooden horse. I want you. I said nothing more. Zhou Huaiman walked over. The car is outside. I nodded. Shen Zhiyi struggled to stand and took 2 steps after me. Lu Chen. I did not look back. Outside, the rain had stopped. The entrance of the financial center was packed with journalists. The Special Investigation Bureau cleared a path for me. I got into the car. Just as the door was about to close, I heard a heartbreaking cry behind me. Daddy. I turned around. Xinghei ran out of the hall. She held the little wooden horse in her arms, one shoe missing from her foot. Shen Zhiyi chased after her, face pale. Xinghei threw herself against the car window and pounded on the glass with all her strength. Daddy, I heard it. Daddy, she cried so hard she could barely speak. In the wooden horse, you said you weren't abandoning me. You said you hoped that when I grew up, I would learn to tell right from wrong. You told me not to think someone is bad just because everyone says they are. You told me not to think someone is good just because they treat me kindly. The car was silent. I closed my eyes. That recording was from 3 years ago, right before I was taken away. Xinghei's birthday had been approaching then. I had sat on a bench in the detention center, handcuffs still around my wrists. The lawyer hid the voice recorder in a folder and whispered that we only had 3 minutes. So, I spoke into the tiny recorder. Xinghei, Daddy can't celebrate your birthday with you, but Daddy is not abandoning you. When you grow up, you must learn to tell right from wrong. Don't refuse to listen to someone just because everyone says he is wrong. Don't decide someone is good just because he treats you kindly. Daddy loves you. 3 years. She finally heard it, but it was already too late. The driver looked at me. Mr. Lu, should we stop? Xinghei was still crying outside the window. Shen Zhiyi held her and cried too. I watched them for a long time. Then, I said, go. The car slowly moved away. Xinghei chased a few steps, then stumbled by the roadside. Shen Zhiyi picked her up and knelt there with her in her arms. Their figures grew smaller and smaller behind us. Zhou Huaiman sat in the passenger seat and handed me a document. The review process has officially begun. Things will get busy from here. You can take a few days off if you want. I took the file. My name was on the cover. Lu Chen. 3 years ago, those 2 characters had been nailed onto a guilty verdict. Today, they finally emerged from that rainy night. The car drove across Yunjiang Bridge. The river beneath the bridge shimmered with the light of early morning. I looked at the water and did not turn back. This city owed me my innocence. I would take it back, bit by bit. As for that family, I no longer wanted it. 1 month later, the results of the rainy night murder case review were announced. The original verdict was overturned. He Yunzhou was formally indicted on multiple charges, including intentional homicide, evidence tampering, misappropriation of funds, and coercion of a false confession. Zhao Qiming was placed under investigation. Shen Group's listing process was suspended, and all projects connected to the capital flow from 3 years ago were audited again. Shen Zhiyi cooperated with the investigation and handed over control of the company. I read all of this in the documents. I did not read too closely. There was not much I missed. Zhou Huaiman asked me, do you hate them? I did once. And now, I closed the file. No time. He smiled faintly. Good. Hate takes too much time. The day I officially joined the Special Investigation Bureau, Shen Zhiyi came to see me. She stood at the entrance, wearing a simple white blouse. She did not look like President Shen. She looked more like the Shen Zhiyi from years ago, the woman who stayed up all night with me in the meeting room. In her hands, she held an old picture frame. This is the photo you used to keep by the entrance. I glanced at it. A family of 3. Xinghei had just been born, and Shen Zhiyi and I were still so young. Back then, we all believed there would be better days ahead. Shen Zhiyi handed me the frame. Xinghei listens to that recording every day. I did not take it. Her eyes reddened. She refuses to wear any bracelet anyone gives her now. She refuses to play the piano. She says she wants to see you. I was silent for a few seconds. When she's older, Shen Zhiyi looked up, a small light rising in her eyes. You're willing to see her. She's my daughter, I said, but not right now. That small light faded again. She nodded. I understand. She placed the photo frame on the shelf by the door. Lu Chen, I know I have no right to ask you to come back. Her voice was low. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I looked at her. Those words came too late. Her tears fell. I did not hand her a tissue. I did not offer her any comfort. She stood there for a long time before finally turning away. The photo frame remained on the shelf. I did not take it with me. At dusk, when I was leaving work, the security guard called after me. Mr. Lu, a little girl left something for you. He handed me a craft paper bag. Crooked handwriting was written on it. For Dad. I opened it. Inside was a drawing. The picture showed 3 people. A man stood on a bridge. Far away from him stood a woman and a little girl. Beside the little girl, a sentence was written. Dad, I'll learn to tell right from wrong. Under the drawing was the recorder she had taken from the base of the wooden horse. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put the drawing back into the bag. The security guard asked, would you like me to pass her a message? I shook my head. Tell her I received it. That's all. I thought for a moment. Tell her to eat well and study well. The guard nodded. I walked out of the Special Investigation Bureau. It was raining again in Cloud City. The raindrops fell on my shoulders, light and cold. I opened my umbrella and stepped into the rain. Across the street, the bureau's car was already waiting. Joe Hyman rolled down the window. A new case. In or out? I opened the door. Let's go. The car drove into the curtain of rain. This time, I was not being taken away under escort. This time, I was going to investigate the case. Behind me, the city lights flickered on one by one. Some people chase their regrets in the rain. Some weep inside tall buildings. Some finally begin to learn the difference between right and wrong. But none of that was a reason for me to stop. That rain had stolen 3 years of my life. Now, I had to keep moving forward, without looking back.